Hello Jacktails and Ravens, welcome back for our last week of remote learning. You've done so well this term and we are finally in our last week. And we are carrying on looking at adding fractions with different denominators like you did on Friday. And our learning question today, can I add 3 or more fractions with different denominators? So it's the same method, just with more fractions. So I've got the question on the board, 2/3 add 1/6 add 2/6. And you should all see the first problem we've got is we've got thirds and sixths. So we've got our apples and oranges, like our fruit analogy that we've been talking about. We can't add these up as they are because they are different denominators. So I have done some bar models to help show what this question is including or what fractions are involved in this question. And I've got 2/3, and as you can see, all of my bars are the same length or the same size, so the holes is the same. But for my 2/3, we obviously know that it's got to be split into thirds, and I've got 1, 2, 3 sections here, and I'm going to shade my 2/3, 1 and my 2/3 like that. That's 2/3 shaded. My other 2 bars are split into 6 or sixths, and my other 2 fractions I've got 1/6 add 2/6. Okay, so those are the fractions represented in our question, shaded on my bar model. But what we need to think about is we need to convert this 2/3, don't we, into sixths so that we can add them up so they've all got the same denominator. So I'm going to look at my thirds. I need to split it into 6. I need to convert my 2/3 into sixths. So let's put that over here so we know what we're doing. We need to put 2/3 into sixths to that is the lowest common multiple or the lowest common denominator that we can get from the numbers in our question. So I need to split that bar into 6, not 3. So each of my thirds I'm going to split down the middle like this to give me 6 parts of this bar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, can you see what was 2/3 equivalent to in sixths? How many of my sixths is shaded now? And you can see that it is 4. Can you see that? And then just to show what we've done is we know we've still done our 3 times 2, which is 6, and we've done 2 times 2, which is 4. That's all we're doing when we're converting and using our sort of arrows and doing the same to the denominator as we do to the numerator. I've just shown it on a bar model today to help you see that. Now, the sum that we're actually doing is 4/6 add 1/6 add 2/6, and we've got them shaded here. Oh, but actually, I didn't shade in my fractions correctly right at the start. I've not got 2 1/6, I've got 1/6 and 2/6. So make sure you've represented your fractions correctly. So now what we're adding is we're doing 4/6 add 1/6 add 2/6, or 4 add 1 add 2, and we can count our bar models to help us with this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the answer is 7/6. Oh, what type of fraction is 7/6? That's right, it's an improper fraction because the numerator is bigger than the denominator. So sometimes you're asked to convert improper fractions to mixed numbers. So what would 7/6 be as a mixed number? And I can see that would be 1 whole, because I've got 7/6, so I've definitely got a group of 6 in there, with a 6th left over. So I can write that as 1 and 1. Now I've got 1/2 add a quarter add a 12th, and I have got my bar models to show me. All of them are the same length, they are the same whole, there's just this, how many parts they're split into that changes. So I've got my 1/12, let's shade in my 1/12 because I've already split or partitioned my bar into 12 there. Can we convert a 1/2 and a quarter into 12ths as well? We can. It is the common denominator out of these 3 fractions. 12 is the common denominator. So I've got my quarters here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So I need to shade my 1/4. Like that. And my half as well. So if my bar has 12 parts, how many is going to be in a half? How many do I need to shade? Or how many do I need to split if I'm halving 12? That's right, it's 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Oh, use a straight line this smart. There we go, 6. And I can shade, because we've got half, 1/2, a half, however you'd like to say it. Right, so those are my 3 fractions represented on my bar model. But we did say that 12 is a common denominator for all 3 of those fractions. So 1/12 is already in 12ths, so we don't have to do anything to it. To convert these fractions all into 12ths, so I'm going to split my second bar into 12ths as well. So now that has 12 pieces. And what was my quarter equivalent to in 12ths now? Can you see how many were shaded? That was my quarter originally, but when we split it into 12ths, what have we got? That's right, it is 3/12ths. So 3/12ths is equivalent to a quarter. Okay, so and I've crossed it out so that we know that we don't need to worry about that fraction anymore because we've converted it. We've made it into the same denominator as one of our other fractions. And what I've got left is a half, and we need to put a half into 12ths as well. So my bar at the bottom was originally split into half. See if you can guess, whilst I partition, what is a half going to be in 12ths? How are we going to write that as a fraction? And that's right, half of 12 is 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So my half is actually 6/12ths. It is equivalent, it means the same. So now what we're actually adding is 6/12ths, add 3/12ths, add 1/12. Or we can count on our bar model. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. And 10/12ths. That is a non-unit fraction. We don't have to do anything to that. We've simply got 10 out of a possible 12 added up here with our 3 fractions. I hope that makes sense to you all. One more for you to do. Pause the video, have a go at this yourself. You might want to draw some bar models to help you if you've got some square paper at home, or talk to somebody if they're near you. How would you solve this problem? How would we add 3/16, add a half, add a quarter? Pause the video and have a go. So we need to look at our fractions, and I can draw them, represent them on my bar models. So I've got my first bar, which is split into 16 because that was the highest multiple on my board. And I've got 3/16, so I'm going to shade 1, 2 and 3. Just like that, my 3/16. Now what about a half? So I know there's 16 parts possible on my bar. If I need a half, how many is going to be on each side? Half of 16. Half of 16. That's going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Lost count there. Right. And I'm going to go shade in my half. Good. And we could almost jot that down because we don't need to work that out. As long as we know what half of 16 is, we know that half in 16ths is going to be 8/16. Okay? Which leaves us with our 1/4. So again, there's 16 parts or 16 squares in our bar. If we need to split that into 4 equal parts, how big is each part going to be in squares? 16 divided by 4, it's going to be 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? And we've got how many quarters in our question? That's right, we've got 1. Just like that. So those are our fractions all drawn as they were, but we need to put them all, we need to convert them so they've all got the same denominator. And as we've already done, 16 is in the 4 and the 2 times tables. So 16 is our common multiple for this question. We've already done our half, so all we need to do is convert a quarter into sixteenths. So imagine I need to split my last bar into 16 parts as opposed to 4 parts. And can you see? So how many sixteenths is equivalent to a quarter? And the answer is 1, 2, 3 and 4. So we're actually adding 3 sixteenths, 8 sixteenths and 4 sixteenths. And we can add them up normally. So I've got 8 and 4, which I know is 12. Adding on the 3, 13, 14, 15. 15 sixteenths. Again, that is a non-unit fraction. We don't have to do anything with that or convert it. It is in its sort of lowest possible form, if you like. Let's double check on our bar model. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I've got 15 parts shaded using my bar models. 15 sixteenths was the answer. Well done if you've got that by yourselves. Right, got another one here for you. We're going to step away from the bar models now and to go back to the arrows and how we were converting that way in our heads mentally using our multiplication and division facts. So I've got 1/2, add 5/18, add 1/9. So looking at those fractions, common multiple going to be, what are we going to convert all of our fractions into? And you should be able to spot that 18 is in the 9 times tables and it's an even number, so it's in the 2 times tables as well. So 18ths is what we're going to stick with. So 5/18 we don't have to do anything to, do we? And now it's just the other 2 we need to convert. So 1/2. Remember, we're working everything out into 18ths. So for 1/2, we've got to think, what's half of 18? And the answer is 9. So that's going to be 2 times 9 gets us to the 18. And then whatever we do to the top, we do to the bottom. So we're doing times 9. 1 times 9 is 9, or 9/18. Does that make sense? Can you see how we've moved from our bar models and now we're just using our multiplication facts to help us convert? Okay, and the same with my 1/9. What do we multiply 9 by to get 18? And the answer is 2. We do 9 times 2 is 18. And then whatever we do to the bottom, we need to do to the top. So I'm doing 1 times 2, which is 2. So in fact, what I'm adding up now, my 3 fractions have become 9/18, 5/18, and 2/18. Okay, so 9 add 5, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And I'm adding on my 2, 15, 16. 16/18 is the answer. And I'm going to give you a little bit of bonus information here. Sometimes questions will ask you for fractions in the simplest form. And that just means it wants it in with the smallest numbers possible. And 16 and 18 are both quite big numbers, but they also are both even numbers. So we should see straight away that we could half both of those numbers to give us an even simpler fraction. Don't worry if you don't quite get this. We will move on to this later in our fractions module, but sometimes questions will crop up that say simplest form. Give your answer in the simplest form. And this is all it is simply asking you for. So I can see both these numbers are even, so I'm going to half both of these numbers. So half of 16 I know is 8, half of 18 is 9. So 16/18 or 8/9 is still equivalent, they mean the same. I've just put my answer in its simplest form. I can't get that any simpler because I've got 9, which is an odd number, so it's not easy to go straight to halving. But 16/18 or 8/9 would be my answer for my first question. Okay? Ooh, last bit. On your worksheet today, you've got some fraction magic squares. And magic squares, in any question, are asking you to make all the rows and all the columns equal the same. And our magic number for our magic square is 3/2. Can you see that up in the corner? 3/2, and you need to try and get each row and each column to equal 3/2, okay? So I'm looking at my fraction square, my magic square, and I've got 1/2, 5ths and 10ths in my square. So just like when we're adding fractions in calculations, we need to find a common multiple. And 5 and 2 both go into 10. Does that make sense? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put my 3/2 into tenths, so it's easier for me to sort of add them up. So I need to think. 2 times what is 10? And the answer is 5. And then whatever I do to the bottom I do to the top. So 3 times 5 is 15. And that is an improper fraction, but that is okay because that will help us work out our magic square. So my goal is 15 tenths, or otherwise known as 3/2. Because if we were to simplify 15 tenths, it would give us 3/2. So I'm going to look in this middle row first of all, because I've got 1/2. Now, if I need to make 3/2, what are my 2 remaining squares going to be on that row to give me 3/2? And you should all be shouting at me. It's got to be a 1/2 in each, because if I put 1/2 there, 1/2 there, I've got 1, 2, 3 halves, and that's one row completed. This row equals 3/2. 1, 2, 3. Because the denominators are all the same, we can add the numerators like normal. Right, now let's move on to another question. So let's do this row because I've got 2 filled in. I've only got 1 missing square left to do. Remember, all of them need to equal 3/2 or 15 tenths. So I think we need to do some converting, either written down or in our heads for this one. So I've got a 1/2. What's a 1/2 as in tenths? You should be able to tell me that's 5 tenths. We know that straight away. So 5 tenths, put that in brackets just so we remember it. So I've got 5 tenths there. What's 2/5 as in tenths? What's 2/5 going to be in tenths? Let's do 2/5 into tenths. I'm going to do 5 times 2 and then 2 times 2, which is going to give me 4. So I've got 4 tenths and 5 tenths. What's the total I need to make in tenths for each column? That's right, it's 15. So if I've got 4 and 5, what have I got so far? I've got 9 tenths. What do we need to add to 9 tenths to get to 15? 10 tenths, 11 tenths, 12 tenths, 13 tenths, 14 tenths, 15 tenths. 6 tenths would get us to our magic number of 15 tenths. All right, now let's look across the top because we've got 2 given there. Pause the video. What fraction is going to go in this square up here to make 15 tenths if I've already got 6 tenths and 1 tenth? And 6 tenths add 1 tenth is 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 is going to give me 8 tenths like that. And now I've got 2 at the bottom, all with 2 given to me. Pause the video, have a go yourselves, and then join back in for the answer. So I've got a 1/2 here, which we know a 1/2 in tenths is going to be 5 tenths. And I've got 1 at the top, so I've got 5, I've got 6 tenths. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. That gave me 9. And my last one, I've got 8. Now I've not got 1 because my 1/2 in tenths is going to be 5. So I've got 8 add 5. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh, I've already got 13 tenths. And my magic number is to make 15 tenths. So 13, 14, 15, 2 tenths like that. So that is how you complete a magic square. As I said, you've got some of these on your worksheet today. Have a go at today's worksheet. You can always watch Friday's video to go back to helping you find that lowest common denominator or that lowest common multiple to help you convert your fractions. But I hope this video helps, and I'll see you tomorrow.